All right, so you're ready to boost that English level, huh? And lucky for you, you've handed us a whole stack of articles about the best websites to do it.
Yeah, we've got 11 best websites to learn English for different levels and budgets, 19 best websites to learn English, free English practice, and even 10 websites for improving your English online.
That's a lot of options to go through.
It really is, and it's fascinating to see how different they all are. Some are all about games, others focus on real-world news.
Some even connect you with a real live tutor, which is pretty wild when you think about it.
Exactly. It just shows how many ways people learn best these days. So, in this deep dive, we're on a mission.
To help you find the absolute best website for you. Because let's face it, what works for one person might not work for another. It's got to be the right fit.
100%.
Yeah.
It all comes down to your learning style and your goals. Now, one name that kept popping up in all three articles, which is kind of interesting, is Preply.
Reply. I've heard of it, but never really dug into it. What's so special about it that it's in all these best of lists?
Well, unlike a lot of language apps, Preply focuses on one thing, connecting you with an actual qualified English tutor for one-on-one lessons.
So it's not just memorizing flashcards. You're getting that human interaction, which is so important for learning a language, right?
Absolutely. And they actually talk about tailoring the courses to your specific needs. They even have business English courses for career advancement.
Oh, interesting. Because it's one thing to learn grammar, but to use it in a real situation, like at work, that's a whole other level.
Right. That personalized approach is something you don't always find, especially online.
I can imagine. It's like having a personal trainer for your language skills. But isn't something like that super expensive?
It can be.
Yeah.
But Preply's prices seem pretty reasonable, starting at like $10 an hour.
Really?
Yeah. So it's an investment, but compared to, say, a traditional language school, it might be a better deal.
That's true. And you're getting that one-on-one attention. It's like a private concert versus, listening to a recording. But gotta think about the budget-conscious folks, too.
Yeah. The articles mentioned some great free options as well.
Like what? What were some of the big names?
The three that were in almost every article: BBC Learning English, VOA Learning English, and then, of course, there's Duolingo.
Duolingo. Hard to escape that little green owl these days. What is it about that app? Everyone's talking about it.
Well, they've definitely mastered the art of gamification. They make learning a language feel like a game. But gotta remember, free often comes with limited features.
That's true. Okay, so let's break down each of these free options. What's BBC Learning English all about? They've been around forever, right?
They have, and for good reason. The BBC, they've got that solid reputation for great educational content, and their website's no different. They have news-based lessons, grammar explanations, even pronunciation guides. Something for everyone.
So it's a good choice for people who want that more traditional approach, yeah. Now, what about this VOA Learning English? What's the deal with the news angle?
So they use actual news stories as the basis for their lessons. You're learning about current events and improving your English at the same time.
Interesting. It's like hitting two birds with one stone. All right, let's talk about Duolingo, the big one. I've played around with it. It's pretty addictive. But can a gamified app really get you fluent?
That's the question, isn't it? It's definitely fun and great for beginners, for sure.
Like to get started?
Yeah, but just using Duolingo alone might not be enough to reach that fluency level.
So it's like the appetizer, not the main course. You need more than that.
Exactly. And another thing, Duolingo mainly focuses on American English. If you're interested in British English, you might want to look elsewhere.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of expanding your vocabulary, two other names that came up were Memrise and Duolingo again, surprisingly.
Looks like Duolingo wants to be everywhere. But yeah, Memrise is known for its vocabulary focus.
What makes Memrise so special for vocabulary?
Well, they use gamification, but with a visual twist. They track your progress with flowers, so you literally see your vocabulary blooming as you learn.
Oh, that's cool. I'm a visual learner, so something like that would definitely help me. Way more engaging than just boring flashcards.
Right. And they have different learning modes too. Flashcards, quizzes, games, even video clips with native speakers. You can even make your own courses.
Wow, that's a lot. Before we get too carried away, though, both Memrise and Duolingo have free versions, right?
They do, but both also have that content wall. You'll hit a point where you need to pay for premium to access everything.
Ah, the classic trade-off. Convenience versus cost. You got to decide what's worth it to you. Now, what about the kids? What if you're trying to help your little ones learn English? Any good options for them?
Two came up consistently: ABC and Cambridge English. but they take different approaches.
Okay, what's so special about AB Saya? Is it all fun and games?
That seems to be their focus. They use interactive games, digital storytelling, lots of visuals to make learning feel like playtime. Definitely more engaging than those old textbooks.
I can see that. Kids would be so into the games they wouldn't even realize they're learning. What about Cambridge English? I know they're famous for their exams, but do they have something for kids too?
They do. They're all about that structured learning, building a strong foundation. Their website's got activities and games, but it's all geared towards learning proper grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, that kind of thing.
So it's less about just having fun and more about getting them ready for, like, if they take Cambridge exams later on.
Exactly. It's about building that foundation from the start.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about something that can be a real pain. Grammar.
Ugh, grammar. Is there any way to make it less painful?
One of the articles mentioned Fluent Use. They use video clips to teach grammar, like movie scenes, TV shows, even music videos.
Oh, I like that. It's like picking up slang by watching movies, you know? You're immersed in the language, so the grammar just kind of seeps in naturally.
Right. And they have interactive subtitles. You can click on any word to get the definition, see how it's used, even hear it pronounced.
That's pretty cool. It's like having a built-in tutor right there in the video. Okay, any other websites that stood out? Anything a bit more hidden gem territory?
One that caught my eye was called Bits English Language Learning. It's not the flashiest website, but it's packed with narrated stories, novels, speeches, poems, all designed for English learners.
Narrated stories, like audiobooks. I love audiobooks. It's such a chill way to experience a language.
You can adjust the narration speed to match your level. And they've got an idiom dictionary, grammar exercises, really helps you dive deeper if you want.
So it's perfect for people who want to improve their listening and who love stories. Did anything else pop up? Anything for people with specific interests?
Well, for anyone obsessed with British culture, there's a website called Project Britain.
Ooh, tell me more.
It teaches you about everything British, from history to everyday life, slang, even the royal family.
Okay, that sounds fun. But how does it actually help you learn English?
It's all about immersion. You're learning about the culture, but you're also seeing how the language is used in a real-world context.
It's like absorbing the language through the culture. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here, from one-on-one tutoring to games, free resources, websites for kids, grammar help. It's amazing how many different ways there are to learn English online now.
It really is. And it proves that there's no one perfect solution for everyone. It's about finding what works for you.
Couldn't agree more. But with so many options, how do you even begin to narrow it down? How do you find the right website for you?
That's the big question. And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into all these websites for learning English. We've already found some pretty cool stuff, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack. And as we said before, it's about finding what fits your style, your goals.
Absolutely. We were talking about pre-play before the break, how it connects you with an actual tutor. That personalized approach is pretty unique.
It is. It really is. It's like taking that old school tutoring and bringing it online. Anyone can access it.
So you don't have to, like, be in the same city as the tutor or anything. You can learn from anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how do you find the right tutor on Reply? There must be tons of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, how do you sort through all those options? It can't be easy.
Well, they've got this really good search engine. You can filter by nationality, what they specialize in, how much experience they have, even their hourly rate, and when they're free.
So you can make a list of tutors that look good, and then what? How do you actually know if you'll click with them, you know?
That's where the trial lessons come in. Reply lets you have a short session with a tutor before committing to anything, like a test drive.
I like that. You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it first, right? Yeah. Now, switching gears a bit, what about complete beginners? People just starting out with English. Any websites that are good for that?
Definitely. We talked about Duolingo earlier. That's a popular one. It's very beginner friendly.
Yeah, the games make it kind of fun, like training wheels for English.
Right. But as we mentioned, Duolingo might not be enough to get you all the way to fluency. You'll need to add other stuff in as you go.
Makes sense. So what if you're a beginner, but you want something a bit more structured?
The British Council has a great website called Learn English. It's perfect for beginners.
The British Council? Yeah, I've heard of them. What do they have on that site?
Tons of free stuff. Interactive exercises, grammar explanations, listening activities, videos, all sorts of things, like a virtual classroom.
Wow, that sounds really thorough. Okay, what about websites that focus on specific skills? Like if I want to improve my pronunciation or maybe my listening?
For pronunciation, there's a fun one called Sounds Right, also by the British Council, actually. It uses games and activities to help you master those sounds.
No more feeling embarrassed about your accent.
Hopefully. And for listening, ESL Lab is a great resource. They have a huge library of audio recordings and exercises, all different topics, different levels.
So it's like a podcast library just for English learners.
Pretty much. You can listen to news, interviews, conversations, all sorts of things. It's really helpful for training your ear. What about speaking, though? A lot of people get nervous about actually speaking English, right?
Totally. Is there a way to practice online without feeling, totally terrified?
italki is really good for that. It connects you with native speakers for online conversation practice.
Like you just chat with them?
Yeah, you can do language exchange where you chat with someone who's learning your language, or you can book lessons with a tutor.
So you can choose how structured you want it to be? That's cool. It's like a virtual language exchange partner. Now let's talk about reading. That's a big part of learning English, too.
For a huge collection of reading material, there's Project Gutenberg. They have a massive library of free ebooks, classics, modern stuff, even textbooks, all in English, of course.
That's awesome. It's like having a digital library in your pocket.
And if you're more of a listener than a reader, they have audiobooks too.
So you can read along while you listen. That's helpful. What if you want to read something a bit more current, though? Like news articles or blog posts?
Breaking News English is a great option for that. They take news stories from around the world and rewrite them in simpler English, specifically for learners.
Oh, interesting. So you can stay up to date on current events, A&D, practice your English at the same time.
Exactly. And they have audio recordings too, so you can listen as well as read. Plus, they have comprehension exercises and discussion questions for each article.
So it's like a virtual study group. Okay, any websites that combine reading with, like, vocabulary or grammar practice?
Read Theory is a good one for that. It gives you personalized reading exercises based on your level and then provides feedback on your comprehension.
It's like having a reading coach in your computer.
Kind of, and they have a dictionary, vocabulary quizzes, all sorts of things to help you learn the words in the texts.
Really comprehensive. Now, idioms and slang, those can be tough for English learners, right?
Yeah.
Any websites that can help with that?
There's a website called the Idioms. It literally explains thousands of English idioms, gives you examples, even tells you where they came from.
That's so cool. It's like a decoder ring for those tricky expressions. And what about slang?
Urban Dictionary is the go-to for that. It's a slang dictionary made by, well, everyone, so it's very up to date.
But probably not always super accurate.
You got to be careful with it, yeah. Anyone can add anything. But it's a fun way to learn about slang. Now, shifting gears a bit, what about those standardized English tests, like TOEFL or IELTS? A lot of people need to take those for work or school.
Yeah, those can be really stressful. Any websites that can help with that?
Magoosh is a popular one. They have prep courses for all sorts of tests, including TOEFL and IELTS. They have video lessons, practice questions, even score guarantees.
It's like having a personal tutor just for those exams.
Pretty much. And they have an app so you can study anywhere. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to mention something for the English teachers out there.
Oh, yeah. Are there websites for teachers, too?
Definitely. TEFL.net is a great resource. They have lesson plans, activities, games, worksheets, teaching tips, all sorts of stuff for teachers.
It's like a teacher's toolbox.
Exactly. And they also have resources for learners, so it's a helpful website for anyone involved in the English learning world. Now, before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, I just want to say again how important it is to find what works for you.
It's true. There's no one magic website that's going to make everyone fluent. It's about choosing the right tool for the job.
It's like finding the perfect pair of shoes. You wouldn't wear shoes that hurt, right? You'd keep looking until you find the ones that fit perfectly.
I love that analogy. And finding the right website can make learning English so much more enjoyable. It shouldn't feel like a chore. But with so many options, where do you even begin? That is the question, isn't it? So many cool websites, but how do you pick the one that's going to get you where you want to be with English?
Well, first things first. Got to think about why you're learning English in the first place.
Right. Is it for travel, work, maybe studying abroad, or just for fun?
Exactly, because your goals, they're going to determine everything. Someone planning a trip to London is going to have different needs than someone who needs to pass, like a TOEFL exam for their job.
Makes sense. So once you know your goals, what then?
Think about how you learn best. Do you like structured lessons, or are you more like go with the flow, learn at your own pace?
Yeah, some people like having a schedule, others like to just kind of do their own thing.
Right. And are you a visual learner? Auditory? Do you need to move around to learn?
Some people learn by seeing, others by hearing, others by doing. It's fascinating, really.
And think about this. Do you like games? Competition? Or are you more into a traditional classroom kind of vibe?
That's such a good point, because some of these websites are all about gamification. Others are more straightforward.
So take a minute. Think back to all the websites we talked about. Which ones really grabbed your attention? Which ones feel like they might be a good fit for you, for your style, your goals?
It's like trying on clothes, you know? You gotta find what looks good, what feels right.
And don't be afraid to try a few different things. See what you like. There's no harm in experimenting.
That's the beauty of the internet, right? You have all these options at your fingertips. But once you find a website you like, what then? What's the key to actually making progress?
Consistency, 100%. You're not going to become fluent overnight. There will be times when you're like, ugh, this is hard. But just keep going. Even a little bit every day makes a difference.
It's like working out or learning an instrument. It takes time and effort.
Right. Practice is key. And don't be scared to make mistakes.
Oh, mistakes are the best teachers, I always say.
Seriously. Every time you mess up, you learn something. And another thing, don't forget that language is about communication. So talk to people.
Yeah, get out there and use your English.
Join a conversation group, find a language exchange partner, or even just chat with someone in English at, like, a coffee shop. Whatever works for you.
The more you actually use the language, the more confident you'll become.
For sure. And this is important. Have fun with it. Don't make it a chore. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, even play games in English.
Immerse yourself in the language. Make it part of your life.
Exactly. When you're enjoying yourself, you're way more likely to stick with it. All right, any final words of advice for our listeners as they, start their English learning journey?
Yeah. What's the takeaway message here?
Embrace the challenge. Learning a language is a journey, and it can be tough, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
You get to connect with new people, experience new cultures, see the world in a new way. It's pretty amazing.
Be patient with yourself, celebrate the small wins, learn from the mistakes, and never give up.
I love that. Never give up. All right, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the best websites for learning English. It's been a fun ride.
It has. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's a whole world of resources out there waiting for you to explore.
So keep learning, keep practicing, keep challenging yourself, and most importantly, have fun. The world is waiting to hear your voice.